This is the Emmy Award-winning WB11 News Close-Up with Marvin Scott.
Good morning. Americans seem to love a good ghost story, demonic tales of horror and the supernatural. It has held their fascination from time immemorial. Consider, if you will, the most recent box office success, the thriller The Blair Witch Project. The precursor of that film was another horror tale that scared the daylights out of another generation. Later, I will be joined by noted parapsychologist Dr. Hans Holzer, who will provide some insight into the psychic phenomena. Most people think the Amityville Horror is a good, scary ghost story. What is not commonly known is that the film is based partially on fact, the murder of an entire family in that house 25 years ago today.
He fired 7 shots from a high-powered rifle.
Ronald DeFeo was demonically influenced in committing that horrible crime.
They were shots that left 6 members of one family dead in this charming Dutch colonial home, unceremoniously put a town on the map, and spawned a cottage industry for one of the most lucrative ghost stories of all time. It didn't take long for police to determine that 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo had murdered his mother and father, 2 brothers and 2 sisters as they slept.
The closest Ronnie ever explained as to why he did it is because at that time he felt that they were conspiring against him.
Some suggested DeFeo was after his father's $200,000 insurance policy, but followers of the occult believe something much more sinister was behind his murderous rampage.
Ron was into some very dark things. He was into some occult practices.
Ronnie DeFeo said that there was a black, dark mass or shadow alongside of him, which was obsessing his thoughts and telling him to kill everybody.
Was Ronnie possessed?
No. No. He was insane.
Rejecting that defense, a jury found DeFeo guilty and ordered him to serve 6 25 years to life sentences. Now at the Greenhaven Correctional Facility upstate, DeFeo was recently denied a request for parole. Despite earlier confessions, DeFeo's stories have wavered over the years, accusing others, including the mob, of committing the murders while he was smoking marijuana in the basement. In recent correspondence with me, he again suggested it was his sister Allison who killed everyone, and that he killed her in self-defense while wrestling for the gun. DeFeo writes, "Really, I need to find a real criminal lawyer, get the DNA testing done, and I am out the door, because the truth speaks for itself." Out of the brutal murders in this house, one of the biggest mysteries still lingering 25 years later is why none of the family members was awakened by the explosive burst of gunfire throughout the house. The Lutzes claim the house was haunted by evil spirits. Religious demonologist Ed Warren and his clairvoyant wife Lorraine, who operate a museum of the occult in Connecticut, came in to investigate.
There is no doubt in our mind that something of a demonic nature haunted that home.
We could sit here for 3 weeks, and I'll keep telling you each time, it's a fraud.
Bill Weber was the trial lawyer for Ronald DeFeo, who was found guilty of killing his family in that house a year earlier.
The Lutzes took advantage of an unfortunate incident and built a supernatural story around it, but it's not true.
In letters to me from prison, DeFeo says it was he who was taken advantage of. Declares also that the Amityville Horror is a hoax, that it's all about money and industry. The convicted killer sent me documents purportedly showing that his lawyer was after lucrative book and movie deals and accuses him of starting what has become one of the greatest ghost stories of all time.
I didn't start it, that's for sure.
You contributed to it?
I contributed, absolutely.
After the Lutzes fled the house, Weber says he met with them to discuss a book idea about the DeFeo murders, not a ghost story.
We sat down and we talked. We had a nice evening conversation.
So this story evolved over dinner with the Lutzes and a bottle of wine.
I think it was about 3 bottles of wine. Yes, about 3 bottles of wine.
So the story grew with each bottle of wine?
Each bottle became a better story.
It is definitely not a hoax.
The evidence that we would have to use would be the photographs that we had taken shows a ghostly little boy looking out of Missy's room. Seconds before, there was nothing there. Then you see a small boy's face with luminescent eyes.
As for the swarm of flies the Lutzes claimed infested the house in the cold of winter, Attorney Weber says that was the work of their creative minds. not demons.
I told them there were flies found in the house when the body of the older sister was discovered. From those flies, they created a complete supernatural scene in the sister's room.
Weber asserts that the idea for the green and black slime oozing from the walls came from crime scene photographs.
There was greenish-black substance around many of the doorknobs. They were the result of fingerprint powders. Those photographs, that was what constituted in the Lutz's mind the green slime that was coming out of the doors.
Another bizarre element to the unnerving story is the seemingly striking resemblance between homeowner George Lutz and the man who lived in that house before, convicted murderer Ronald DeFeo.
This is the crucifix which George Lutz used going throughout the house to try to cast out the evil that was there. But he simply wasn't strong enough to overpower what was there.
Whatever it was the Lutzes believed was in that house, it did not manifest itself the night I spent in the house 23 years ago with a group of parapsychologists who conducted a seance.
Whatever is here.
You're trying to harm them?
Yes, and it's something that comes at you and makes your heart speed up, that kind of thing.
The demonic force was supposedly the strongest in the sewing room, where Lorraine Warren conducted another seance by candlelight. Other than a brief chill, after all, it was February, I felt nothing unusual.
But it did to me, Marvin, because I said to you, Marvin, I hope this is as close to hell as I'll ever get.
I heard them, Father. I heard voices.
Not I. The only persistent voice I heard that night was that of my crew, wanting to know when we were going to have the sandwiches we had brought along. The Amityville house appears to be quite peaceful now. There's been no evidence of any strange occurrences here since the Lutz family fled more than 20 years ago.
Since the Lutzes moved out, there have been 3 families that have lived in the house, and no one has had any supernatural or occult experience.
This house is not haunted. It never was haunted. It was a money-making fraud.
My feeling is that that home has been exorcised. And that is the only way anybody could live in peace in that home.
The current owners refuse to speak to us, but in an effort to detract the curious, they have changed the fan windows in the attic, and they have changed the address from 112 to 108 Ocean Avenue. A couple of footnotes to that report. George and Kathy Lutz, they still stick to their story, although they have not stuck together. Now divorced, George lives in Las Vegas, Kathy is in Arizona. Both have become devoted to their church. Ed and Lorraine Warren insist the photographs they use, including the ones in the report, the ones they use as evidence of paranormal activity, are not at all doctored, and they offer a $3,000 reward to anyone who can prove there was a conspiracy to create the Amityville story. And finally, often I am asked if I was at all frightened the night I spent in that house. Truthfully, the 2 hours I spent watching the movie with a rowdy, disruptive, pot-smoking audience was much more of a horror than the 6 hours I spent in that house. When we return, I'll be joined by noted parapsychologist Dr. Hans Holzer.